Hello guys, so this will be the final part of examining the trial of Sekhemas before we get on to the low, mid, and high levels of farming. Yeah, I think that would be the proper wording. I refer to it as the paupers, but maybe that could be misunderstood. I don't mean in a negative way, but yeah. So the poor man's, the medium level man's, middle class man's, and the rich man's farming. Anyway, so first of all, guys, you might not know this, but there are major afflictions in Trial of Sekhemas. I mean, you might have seen one or two, but now there are a little bit more. Let's get into those. So the only way to obtain these is from the pledge rooms, right? There are no other ways of uh, receiving major afflictions. So these are very rare. The best idea is generally to not receive any of them, maybe like one of them you'll see. Okay, so first one, branded Balbalak cannot restore honor. So thing is, guys, how do you receive these? The pledge shrine gives you something major in return for these, right? So for example, you receive three minor boons and you get this. So this can obviously be activated on the last floor, right? Cannot restore honor if you are in a good position, but early on, this would be pretty nasty. And as far as I know, there is no way to prevent these from happening. And also, so, for example, guys, the crystal boon, right? That only prevents you from getting minor afflictions. There is nothing that prevents you from getting these guys. Corrosive concoction, you have no defenses, which means no armor, no energy shield, and no evasion, which will mean you are going to lose a lot of honor if you are getting honor from your energy shield. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest. Deadly Snare, Trap Steel, triple damage. One of the worst runs I had, I was greedy and I got this one. Then I was going out of my mind because, guys, the triple is huge, right? It goes pretty nasty. I definitely would not suggest doing so. Even if you are good at dodging traps, you fail once and you take like 1,500 damage and it can go pretty nasty. Yeah. So this is the most acceptable one, but I haven't seen it in a long while. Take some physical damage after completing 8 rooms. And the thing is, guys, it does work a little bit weird, but it does not deal that much on the damage. So, for example, it says, you know, 2,500 on the damage, and you take like 500 or so. This is perfectly acceptable, but keep in mind that it triggers after 8 rooms. So, I mean, don't make a mistake and die, right? Keep in mind. Losing honor ends the trial removed after 3 rooms. Just no. It's extremely risky. This is offered in favor of 3 minor boons. Just no. Right? And I had this once, and I was facing very mellow rooms, like 2 ritual rooms in a row, alongside with the boss room. I still didn't do it because it's 3 divine at stake, and I always compete. So the worst thing I can miss out on is the 40% movement speed boon or the 30% increase efficiency. Yeah, it's just not worth it. Actually doable, but the stakes are so high. So you just need to not lose honor for 3 rooms only. But as I said, I just didn't there. Glass shard, it's the evil twin of crystal shard. The next boon you get, you convert it into a minor affliction. Yeah, I mean, guys, random minor afflictions are very dangerous. It could give something very nasty. I would just suggest going away from these. Non-unique relics have no effect. This is, I think, the worst one there is. Yeah, just no, right? Because, guys, I'm getting 60% movement speed and 120% increased relic drops. Just no. You cannot gain any more boons. That could also be a thing if you are set in your ways. For example, you got your hair, you got your urn, just could take it. You cannot gain sacred water, same deal, right? This is actually a little bit less strict version of the other one because you can get the boons from shrines. So these are actually tolerable. So rooms are unknown. I don't know how Veiled Sight actually interacts with the thing that reveals the map because these are extremely rare, the major afflictions. The major afflictions are major boons are somewhat rare, but the major afflictions are very rare. So this is, I would say, definitely too much. You do not know the rewards, you do not know the rune types, and you do not know the afflictions. And the thing is, not knowing the rune types at the top level of farming is not that bad, right? You can handle all rooms. You can just get a little bit too many gauntlet and waste time, but that would be it, right? Not knowing the rewards is pretty annoying because you just going blindly. Your chances of hitting hair and the earn goes much lower. I had that in a row, weird enough, right? Like 3 4 runs in a row, it just slapped the rewards are not known. Rewards are unknown thingy. Affliction on me, it was annoying. And afflictions are unknown. It's just unacceptable, especially early on. You just don't know what you are getting into. You could get some very nasty stuff, and it could be run ending. So this is I would say no. Of course, at the end, it's no big deal. Black smoke, you can see one fewer room ahead on the trial map. It's not that bad. Uh, so how do I do the tiers here? I mean, S as in perfectly gettable, right? That is the logical one. So, good for us means S, right? So I'm going to give this A. It's not that bad. We can handle it, right? Blunt sword, you and your minions deal 40% less damage. I'm going to give a C to that one. This paired with similar stuff can be pretty annoying. Monsters inflict binding chains on it. So guys, the idea is to not get hit very frequently or at all. So this is S tier, right? You definitely want this curse, right? Because it doesn't do anything. You shouldn't be getting it. So, them slowing us a little bit with hit, right? I mean, you get hit like once every 4 or 5 rooms maybe, and then you get slowed down for a little while. No big deal. S tier debuff, debuff, affliction. Monsters petrify on it. Sure. I mean, I don't know how this works, so I haven't seen this, by the way. I don't think this exists right now. I have not seen this, and I have been running a lot. Yeah. And if it existed, if it's one hit and instant petrified, that could be somewhat dangerous. Yeah, I would give this D tier or something. I don't know how it works, and I have not seen this at all. Gain a random affliction when you venerate a Marrakech shrine. So, guys, this is probably the most underrated in a negative way thing. So, the problem with this is you can actually forget about this one, right? For example, guys, imagine you get a boon giving shrine, you would just jump at it and boom, get an affliction, right? So, I try to avoid this one. I'm going to actually give this a D tier, right? I don't want this affliction in my book, right? Trap steal 100% increased damage. At the top level of farming, I'm going to give this a C tier, maybe B tier, and at the low and mid levels of farming, F tier maybe. You don't want this, right? When you are not properly dodging traps, this can be run ending, so you don't want this. Deceptive mirror, solid F tier. You are not always taken to the room you select. So guys, there is something ugly there. You want to dodge it, bang, sends you to that room. You are gonna get yeah, in a lot of trouble. I have heard that you can save scum this. So when you click on the room and it goes to another room, you can just leave and relog and try it. But the problem is you can't always tell if it's procced or not, right? That's the problem. So yeah, at your own risk. But this is F tier. You don't want this affliction, right? Dishonored tattoo, 100% increased damage taken while on low life. I'm guessing for all builds that are not playing with low life, this is an S tier debuff. It doesn't do anything because you cannot even go to low life if you wanted. And I'm guessing for low life builds, it would be like C tier or so. I mean, you are permanently taking double damage. Yeah, could be even D tier, right? It's pretty annoying. There are some builds that play with low life. The liches play low life. Monsters' action speed cannot be slowed below base. Monsters have 25% increased cast attack and movement speed. I'm gonna give this a C tier as well. This is somewhat annoying, especially by those characters that use temporal chains or whatnot to slow the enemies. Yeah, this can be somewhat annoying. 50% reduced effect of your non-unique race, F tier. Yeah, that's not what we want, right? I have movement speed and increased relic drops, and that messes with that one. That's terrible. This is actually the thing that I'm trying to avoid by not taking this one. This is a solid F tier. Rewards are unknown on the trial map. This is another underrated one. I would say this is again like D tier, C tier maybe. because it kind of prevents you from getting the urn and the hair because you cannot go to the merchants, right? The chance of you hitting a merchant randomly are like 15, maybe 20%, right? Normally you could target it. Hemorrhage, you cannot restore honor removed after killing the next boss. This is repeatedly obtainable. And if you are farming at top level, this is an S tier debuff, and this could even be S plus. This could be the best affliction ever because you can repeatedly get it, right? In the course of a run, you could get like 3, 4 times. Four, I guess, is a stretch, but yeah. Monsters deal 30% more damage. This actually depends on whether you are taking hits or not. If you are taking hits, this could be very nasty, especially on the last floor because they hit really hard. I'm gonna give it a C tier. Monsters remove 3% of your life mana. That's outdated. That's 5%. That's not 3%. I'm gonna give that one a tier as well. This is a pretty good debuff because you should not be getting hit, right? And the thing is, this gives the impression that it's getting removed permanently or something, but it's not like that. It doesn't really do much. Iron Manacles, you have no evasion. So in this season, again, there are a lot of players who play with evasion, like myself. And the thing is, this is not as bad as you expect. So obviously, for a warrior, this is an S tier debuff, right? But a lot of players play with evasion. Pure Energy Shield, again S tier. But for even evasion, I'm gonna give this like a C tier. Like you would expect me to give F tier, but thing is, with a Deadeye, all right, and with a proper farmer, you move so fast. That's your line of defense. You move so fast and you shoot them at the range or maybe even melee, but you are so fast that the monsters have no chance to react, right? So this was forced on me in one run, and you know, it didn't make that much of a difference. Lose 20 sacred water when you take a damage from an enemy. At the top level, this is again an S tier, right? I mean, in the course of an entire run, I would expect to like 3 or 4 hits, maybe from the entirety in the run. So, I mean, if we add traps in, let's say 10 at most, right? And that's, I'm being very pessimistic here. 10 hits, so that's gonna make me lose 200 sacred water. That's nothing, right? It's beautiful. So that's S tier. For the lower tiers of farming, maybe it could be like C tier or something, but no, B maybe. C would be too unfair. 50% less sacred water found. That is annoying earlier on. This is a little bit hard to vary because later on it doesn't mean much when you have gotten everything that you wanted or just don't have any other merchants coming up. So I'm gonna give it a B. But earlier on it's pretty close to F. Afflictions are unknown on the trial map. That's F tier. You don't want this. Right? This is very dangerous because after that you could get the relic thingy, for example. You just don't know. Traps are faster. Yeah, again earlier on, the low level and mid level of farming would be like CD tier, but later on I would say this is B tier or so. I'm not gonna say A. It can be disruptive at times, so Red Smoke, rune types are unknown on trial map. At the top level of farming, this is, I would say, A tier, right? Because it can give you a lot of gauntlet rooms and it can make you waste time, but yeah. And somewhat earlier on, maybe, one tier worse. You have no armor. I mean, there are not too many armor players here, so that would generally be an S tier. But if you are a warrior, then this would be pretty problematic for you, and you will be melee as well most of the time. Yeah, you have 50% less energy shield, so this has the annoying drawback of making you lose a lot of honor because, for example, I have almost 4k energy shield, and this makes me go down to 2k, which means I'm going to lose 2000 honor for picking that one. So it makes me lose honor, but the thing is, it doesn't do anything else, right? Because you can't be killed in Trial of Sekhemas. So yeah, this is like a honor reducing thingy. If there is a real danger of time, then it could be a little bit more. I'm gonna give it a B tier. Take 25 physical damage upon room completion. Again, that formula is wrong. For me, it's like 115 damage. I don't know what it's exactly based on, but it doesn't do much because the damage that you actually take, the only damage that you actually take is much lower. It hits me like 20, 30 per room. Doesn't amount to much. I'm gonna give it an A tier at the top level of farming, and I'm gonna give it a C tier at the lower level of farming because constantly chipping at your life can be annoying, maybe. But then you would have honor resistance, then it wouldn't really chip. There's that, right? Monsters have 50% increased life. That's somewhat annoying, especially when paired with you deal 40% less damage. Uh, I'm going to give it a D tier. Maybe at the higher level of farming, I'm going to give it a C tier. Reduce honor restored. Yeah, I mean, B tier in top level of farming and C tier in low and mid, I think. Uh, Tethered blindfold. 90% reduced light radius minimap resistance. I'm gonna give it a C in low level of farming only because maybe you are not familiar with the layouts at the time, but when you are familiar, I'm gonna assume that medium level is familiar, right? And the top level it doesn't really do anything, so that's S tier there. 50% increase merchant prices. This is again hard to place because earlier on it's a real problem, right? But the thing is, these are not run ending, right? They prevent you from getting your earn and hair. That's what they do. That's the most. So I'm gonna give it a C tier. The merchant offers one choice early on. This is pretty ugly. I'm gonna give it a D tier. You don't want this, right? But after what you get what you want, which is not very easy. Then it doesn't do anything. Okay. The final few. You are cursed with enfeeble. That's 20% damage down alongside with 50% increased life and 40% reduced damage dealt. That can be a huge problem. I mean, if you are not very strong, you will definitely need the 50% damage up and 30% reduced monster life to counter these. If you get all 3 out of 3, it can be run ending, right? You might fail to kill the boss. So I'm gonna give it a C tier again. It's not like the other two, but it's still annoying, especially if it combos with the others. 25% maximum less honor. B tier, maybe. It doesn't do too much. It's not a huge problem. Lose all sacred water on floor completion. So this is actually pretty annoying. Why? Because guys, the thing is, when I first got this, I expected to kill the boss, loot the boss, then do my shopping at the merchant, and then lose my sacred water. Nope, it takes away all your sacred water as soon as you kill the boss. So you cannot take the sacred water to the merchant after the boss. So this is a little bit more annoying than you would expect it to. I'm gonna give it a D tier or so. It doesn't do much on the last floor, but earlier on the other floors, until you get what you want, it's a little annoying. And most of the time, you can see these mostly prevent you from getting the boost that you desire, right? Not run handing most of the time. Warns handles 30% more less movement speed if you've been hit an enemy recently. That's again a solid S tier. You shouldn't be getting it. Yeah. So thing is, that is weird, guys. I don't see one of the afflictions here. I mean, I don't know the whole list by heart, but the most annoying thing doesn't exist here. Myriad afflictions or something it's called, and whenever you receive an affliction, you receive another affliction. Very solid F tier. Run ending, right? You get it earlier on, then you are bound to get some afflictions, right? You cannot fully dodge them. And when you get 2 at a time, and the second one is random, it could be something nasty. Yeah, run ending. That's one of the worst ones. Solid F tier. I'm hoping the list was not missing anything else. So I was looking for that one. So let's take a look at the pledges and finalize this. Yeah. So what the pledges do, as always, you gain something and you lose something. Most of the time they are not very good, but sometimes they can give you hair or earn, right? Or sometimes the downside is very minor and you can actually get it. So you can get boons, and these do not exist. I mean, I think this exists, but I have never seen this, I think. Okay, so the most common one is pretty stupid. You gain a random minor boon and you gain a random affliction, which is very annoying. We do not want random afflictions because we could get something very nasty. A random boon is not equal to a random affliction, so you don't want these. You could sometimes use a random affliction to lose a random minor boon. That is generally not worth it either. But if you get something very nasty and you can get rid of it, that's nice. Gain 3 random minor boons, gain a specific major affliction. Yeah, I guess most of the time it's gonna be pretty bad. So you can get a major boon and you can take a lot of honor damage. The best ones are these are not listed, but some stuff makes you take physical damage in return for boons. That's the best one because it doesn't hit you for that much and you gain a random boon. So those are the best ones. So these are the pledges, and there are some specific pledges to this place. They are not listed. Okay, so there are some few pledges that are listed for these pledges. Uh, the one I remember off the top of my head is 50% reduced merchant prices in return for monsters do not drop sacred water. That is pretty nice because you spend a little time picking up those, or you just ignore them altogether to save time. So you don't really get penalized, and it does stack with the 50% merchant cost reduction from the boons, but not additively, but multiplicatively. What I mean by that is that you are going to pay a quarter of the original price. It doesn't go down to zero. So, for example, if you have a boon that's costing 420 sacred water, and you have both the merchant price reducing uh, boon and pledge, you are going to pay 105 for it instead of 420. So that's about it, guys, for the pledges and afflictions. We also did go over the rooms and reward types and the things. So yeah, this is very comprehensive, but as I said, I want to impart to you all of my method. And yeah, at the top level of farming, you would be netting at about, if you can keep it up, you would be netting about something near 100 divine per hour. And I don't think anything can claim that, right? I mean, 100 divine per hour is pretty good. But of course, it's not repeatable, right? It just gets very annoying very quickly. But like 5 rounds a day, then some mapping, etc. Right? It does yield a hefty sum. So I will see you in the next video. And thanks for watching.